Recap. What is a recap? Generally, that term is short for recapitalization or capital, new money, a new money institute coming in. How does that affect you and your unique business? Well, let's take a look and particularly take a look at where most recaps occur, or who recapitalizes most companies, organizations, groups of practices. And it all leads to the multi-trillion-dollar industry of private equity. There are low-tier private equity groups that invest $50 million to $150 million, mid-tier private equity groups that loosely invest in $200 million to $800 million deals, and then there's very large private equity companies like KKR and BlackRock, who are looking at $800 million all the way up into multiple billions. And so the key to understanding recap or recapitalization is to understand that every business that creates a holding company is merely leapfrogging from private equity group to private equity group and merely ascending their way up the private equity ladder from lower tier private equity to mid-tier private equity to large private equity groups. At the top, these large private equity groups are simply merging companies up there and doing larger transactions. So let's take a look at this and go over how it may relate to your individual practice or business or even real estate. 50 practices may come together and have a nice $200 million event, liquidity event. The doctors do very well, they're set financially, and we're good, right? They've enjoyed their path to freedom. But most of those doctors choose to keep 50% or more of their stock in Holdco or that company for the next recap, which means we'll be involving a medium level private equity company. Right now there are 180 private equity companies in healthcare that are very active. It's the most competitive zone in private equity today. So the next recap or new money will occur with a mid-tier private equity group in the $200 million to $800 million range. Many doctors have already gotten a lot of money on the first recap, but now they're doing what they call taking another bite of the apple. Okay, they got stock, the business grows, right? More practices are added with the money from the first private equity company, right? They're buying practices into this at a 4 to 6 times multiple. They're immediately worth an 11 to 15 times multiple. They have a great arbitrage, which we'll talk about later. And the cycle goes on, and we have another recap, right? Now everyone sells half the stock they have. They receive a bunch more capital. They save money on taxes, grow their wealth plan, create multiple streams of passive income. And what's that private equity company going to do? They're going to wait 2 to 5 years, and they're going to recap again with a large private equity company. And so we need to understand that history repeats itself, and history often rhymes. All the private equity companies do it the same way. They want to recap their portfolio company, right, which is just Holdco, every 2 to 5 years, and they want to make 300% to 500% on their money. So if you can own Holdco stock in a company that's backed by private equity, you stand to have a great chance at really building your wealth very quickly with very smart people. Frankly, smarter people than myself or yourself are running these private equity companies, and they do it very, very well. And so that's what a recap is in its most simple form.